Good morning. Happy Friday. I often go live in our Facebook group on Friday, but I figure, why should Facebook have all the data gathering fun? There's lots of other platforms out there. And we are on Rockfin, which I do like. It's a cool platform. But I just wanted to say happy Friday, first of all, to everybody out there. Hope you're doing quite well. And just talk a little bit about what's going on. And a little bit about this idea of the new earth. You hear it all the time. The new age movement loves the idea of the new earth. And it sounds like something that is inherited, something that you're just going to walk right into, and you're going to be palm fronded almost to death as soon as you walk into this beautiful, majestic, natural paradise with a bunch of enlightened people floating around on clouds and I don't know, doing tarot readings or whatever it is that they do. But the truth of it is that the world is really what we make it. And I want to talk about a couple of things today. And I'm talking to myself because I've been experiencing these things. I don't consider myself to be anywhere other than right here. I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to how to live life. I'm not over here making predictions about, what's going to happen next, this and that. I know what I read on the internet, and I can go to some pretty public sources and see what some people have in mind for the future. And then I can go to some other places and see what other people are talking about and predicting and things like that. The reason why I don't want to predict anything is because as soon as you predict something, first of all, I can guarantee you that is exactly what will not happen. As soon as you say this is the thing, well, you've created, a lot of resistance against that. And you've been so specific that all of the different statistic variabilities that could exist, the odds that it landing on the thing that you said are pretty much nil. So, not to mention the fact that we all are creators of reality here in this hologram, right? Like we're all impressing onto the hologram with our own thoughts, certain thoughts, and creating reality that way. And creating reality sounds audacious. It sounds like it's a lot. Like, "Hey, you don't create reality. What are you talking about?" But the idea is really at a fundamental mental level that you have beliefs about the world. You see it in a certain way. You see it through your reality tunnel, your scope, your sphere, your layer, however you want to call it. And that is exactly what you perceive. And that is the map. And so if that's the map, then that is how you're interpreting the map. Right. And so that is how the territory is going to be reflected. That's how you're going to see the world, right? Like we all create our own reality by the way that we view the world, by just our thoughts. And so one thing they talk a lot about in this movement is how like attracts like. And this is an interesting point because there's so many people that I know who like they want something, but they clearly don't want it. And I'll give you an example. Everybody wants to be financially successful, well off, good enough to go, right? But they often, especially spiritual people, will shove off money and say, "Oh, yeah, but money's not important." And so I don't like money. I don't like people with money. We have these recurring things. This is how we create our reality, is that we have these beliefs in our subconscious mind, and there they are, and they're going to manifest in reality. Manifestation, whatever you want to call it, completely natural. It is just part of life. It's not, there's no mystical, mysterious, magical thing about it. It just is what it is. So if I say I hate marketing, I don't like marketing, oh, it's the worst, right? What am I really saying? I'm saying that I don't like what I have to offer. I'm saying that I don't want to tell people about what I've discovered or what I've found or what I've learned. And so if I say I don't, money's not important, well, I'm basically turning my back on that as an energy and really what money represents. And I know it's a fiat currency, it's exploited, inflation, taxation, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But the whole idea of the exchange of money and energy is that you're providing something of value. So that is a representation, a physical sort of measurement of whatever it is that you're providing, right, to the marketplace. Then, so thinking about our beliefs and how we view the world and the creation of reality, we are responsible and on the hook for what the future looks like. It's really up to us. Now, there's definitely some people who want it to look a certain way, right? And there's a lot of people who don't see the direction that things are headed in, and they're completely ignorant to that. They have no idea, and that is, I think, part of the mission as well. And I like to ask you. I ask myself every day. What mission am I on? What is the purpose? What is what am I here to do? What? Because it's not for no reason, right? Like, I don't know much, but I know that I'm not here for nothing. That wouldn't make any sense to me. And that seems to be the pervasive idea or mentality in society, right? Like, or at least in mainstream, it's like, nothing matters. It's it's all gobbledygook at the end of the day. And, it's just this experience that we're having. We just wound up here. We don't know how, all this stuff. But I know that can't be true. Now, I can't tell you exactly why we wind up here. I can't do that. And neither can anybody else. No one can either necessarily clearly define reality for that matter. Now, we do know that this is some sort of a hologram, right? Like a holographic universe. And also we know that our thoughts have power. Our actions have consequences in this holographic reality, in this third dimensional space. So it's important to think about that from a fundamental level and really start evaluating how we are creating reality. When I say creating reality, I don't mean just conjuring something up and pretending that that things are not what they are. Let's just visualize something that's not there yet. It's like, well, you need to have a goal. Sure, it's good to visualize and understand, like, what does a new earth look like? Like, most people aren't even probably on the same page about what a new earth is. Like, it's just something that feels good. It's basically just an opiate that puts new agers in a fun little tingly state, right? And so first of all, we have to understand that we're actively creating literally everything around us all together as a whole group, and our beliefs are constantly influencing the world, whether we're conscious of them or not. Some of us have been in the game for a long time and still haven't identified some of those beliefs that we have about what you hear it called limiting beliefs or whatever. It's all about perspective and perception of this experience that we're all sharing, right? Like, we have to impress upon it. So it is up to us to dig deep into that and ask ourselves those questions. How am I creating my reality? Right? If you're mad about marketing, or you don't like marketing, or if you're, money's, bad or evil, and we're coming off that into some other system, well, what's the other system? What does this new earth look like? It has to be defined, and it has to be something that you actively pursue and create with action, not just thoughts, right? Now, for me, like, a new earth is decentralized. That's the first word that I would use to describe it. It's not some centralized, ordered, like in the lower sort of forced, fear-based type of thing. It's instead more of an open society where, ideas are encouraged. People are educated about certain things, and many things, whatever it is that they want to entertain. But that comes from intention. In order to actually influence the world, we don't just sit around and create visions about it, or like a pretty image in our heads. Like, we have to actively, like, take action in order to get to that place. So I just want to say happy Friday. Like I said, I go live usually in our Facebook group every Friday, and I thought, hey, yeah, why should all the Facebook bots get all the data? That's not fair. There's lots of platforms out there, and I just want to talk about some of the stuff that I've been, dealing with. I've had some pretty bad programs in my mind for for a long time regarding money, marketing, sales, all this stuff. And I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. You don't want to sell something, but everybody's in sales. It doesn't really matter what you do. You're providing a service, right? And in order to provide that service, you need to get paid. And so energetically speaking, money represents that. Now, money can take many forms, right? Like I said, I understand the sort of fiat system, and there's got to be some changes there. But also, I think it's a way for us to devalue our own abilities, skills, and gifts when we take that attitude. It's basically a cop out, right? It's basically just saying, well, I'm not good enough, so I don't need to um I don't need to think about that. And it's a really good way to avoid the truth of who we are and our skills as we build them. Because what's going to be really most important coming up, I think, and again, I'm not making predictions here, but I will say skills, right? Like Alex Hormozy says, skills are inflation proof. Okay. What skills do you have? That's important to think about too. And, with things going the way they are financially and business wise, it's definitely time to be as creative as possible, and to collaborate with people who are like minded. There's never been a better time to do that. Anybody who's like, oh, a new earth, like, I want to see those people not just, think about how beautiful the earth is going to be. It's not inherited, it's created. We have to take action in order to have that type of thing. And it's not something that happens. It is not something that happens overnight either, like it's also not something that happens without a bunch of collaboration and struggle and all the stuff that is kind of unappealing, you know. Um, I wish I could see who that is on Facebook. I see your comment, but I can't see who's saying anything. But hello, good morning. I see you there. So whoever you are, but yeah, it's just such a fun. It's a fun idea, this new Earth thing, but it's also such an easy thing to kind of put put out. It's sort of Pollyanna, right? It's Pollyanna. Everybody enjoys instant gratification. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying instant gratification. That's something to just be honest about. And there's certain times when instant gratification is just fucking choice. That's the thing that you want right now and then. And I don't think there's anything wrong either with visualizing things and seeing things. But I just wanted to hop on here, wish everybody a happy Friday, and just say, like, nothing is really inherited. As I sit down and like write, nothing is determined. I can choose pretty much whatever I want to put my attention into, pretty much whatever. And as society gets like narrower and narrower in a sense, like, and we keep kind of getting pushed, into a certain direction, more and more, you're going to see more and more people break off. You're going to see groups shard out and start doing different things. And I think that's why decentralization is the name of the game, right? And it should be, because nature's not centralized. There's no one authority in nature that just sits around and makes rules for the frogs and the lizards and the crickets and the birds. It's one system that functions all by itself without any influence. So I think we should take a little bit of advice from that. But yeah, I encourage you to examine your beliefs, about certain things, and take responsibility. I mean, that's the ultimate truth. Like, if you're a spiritual person, you have to understand how responsible you are for everything. And it hurts because, like, it's painful. It's painful to admit it. It's no fun, but if you truly want to create, then you have to take responsibility. The more responsibility that you take, the more you can actively create. Hey, Diana, thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning from Georgia. This is early out there on the West Coast. I really appreciate you checking out our show, and I love doing it. I'm fortunate and truly blessed to have like a stable of awesome friends, like who can just hop on the show anytime and just crush it. And I met so many more amazing people out there who are actively creating, a new earth. It's an incremental thing, right? Like it's a thing that happens over time. You have to build trust with people. You have to build relationships. You can't rush this stuff. I think one of the biggest problems that we're going to face in the future, going back to like all these people have this idea about a new earth and nobody isn't really has any idea what that actually looks like. I think one of the biggest struggles is just going to be interpersonal conflict, right? Like that's going to be one of the biggest things. And somebody who does a lot of really cool work on that, and you guys should check out if you can, is Bob Podolsky. He has something called an octalog, and he talks a lot about not, kind of like nonviolent communication techniques, how to survive and thrive in a group. The octalog is meaning 8. And I find that it's really interesting that that's the perfect number in his model, because it's also the same number as an improv ensemble. It's the most creative number. But in an octalog, everyone has to agree. So there's no like voting people down or whatever. It has to be unanimous. And I think that's pretty fascinating as well. Back to the idea of like decentralization and how that actually works. So this is a lot of stuff people have been incredibly speculative on, but they also don't have, in general, a lot of practicality to understand about these ideas, right? When things start splintering off and people, and things do decentralize, well, that's going to make a mess. Do you know what the success rate for like what do they call it? Like not a cult, but like an intentional community or whatever is? It's like 5% or 10% or something like that. And the reason why is because people idealize this stuff and romanticize it, but when it comes down to it, there are real problems, and interpersonal stuff is going to be one of the biggest things, being on the same page. That's why in Bob Podolsky's model, there's the octalog. OCTALOGUE, octalog. Good morning, Din. Thank you for hanging out with me for a moment. I'm just having some coffee here. Often I do go live in the Facebook group on Mondays and Fridays often, but I just kind of wanted to say, good morning this Friday morning and say hello to some folks out there. Just been doing some thinning about stuff. I'm like whoever just said it on Facebook, I can't see who the people are who comment on Facebook while I'm doing this, but they said 1000% idealistic. Me too, dude. and the thing about it, like I think I saw a George Carlin quote the other day. It was something like, show me someone who is a cynic, and I'll show you a disappointed idealist. And that's I find that to be incredibly true that that is what happens, right? We just get disheartened. And the reason why is we don't have tools to understand. We're not on the same page. We don't have the tools to be able to make these things happen, right? And to be able to nurture relationships and understand like how people work together and how they work in a society. Like the indigenous tribes, they know a little bit more about this, right? Because they've had to sort of organize themselves in certain ways. I think there's a ton of different ways to organize society, by the way. I'm not like a advocate of one style over, I think I have things that I think work better, but of course it's Carla. I kind of figured it was you, Carla. I almost guessed, but oh, thank you, Diana. The Interview with Satan, that is out. I do recommend checking it out. Satan had a lot of really good truth bombs to drop. And I actually highly recommend checking out Satan's channel, Satan Reacts, if you want to giggle a little bit, because he does all these different reaction videos, different bands and stuff. And he's got some really cool stuff going on over there. I think he's even expanding that into some other sort of different commentaries, like Christian, pastors like Kenneth Copeland and stuff, which is hilarious. But yeah, I hear the words like New Earth thrown around all the time, and so Heyoka, Diana, you bring up Heyoka. So Heyoka from what I understand, and I could be completely wrong, but from what I understand, the Heyoka is really kind of a trickster, right? Like it's kind of what James does, who's often on the show. And we're collaborating, he and I. He's like, hop in my spaceship, right? And it's all these gongs surround you. You go in there, and he plays them for you, and he has a whole bunch of people actually who do it. And so, um, so anyway, you go in there, maybe you have an experience, maybe you don't. He doesn't advertise anything. He doesn't say it's going to be a certain way, but whatever happens in there, it happens in there. And so I think that's kind of the Heyoka thing. It's like, hey, come check this out. This is interesting, huh? And then it's like, like some crazy mind blowing thing that you can, um, you know, that you get out of it as a kind of a surprise, right? Like a Heyoka I see as like kind of a surprise, I think, right? That's my opinion. And so I like that a lot because, I like comedy and I like just goofing and being silly and fun. And I think there's so much to that. Like, I think, all through college, I had back to this idea of contempt too, right? Like you see a lot of men who have contempt for women and then they want a beautiful woman in their life. It's like, dude, that's not how that works. And vice versa. Women do the same thing where it's like, there's just no good men out there. Well, you fucking said it. You know what I mean? Like you're the one who said it. So how is it that you expect something that you have contempt for? It's impossible to get anything that you have contempt for. The spaceship is awesome. You definitely should try it. It's amazing. And it is going to be, it's going to be around more and more and more. He's actually out. He's creating a new one right now. And he's working his butt off out there. But yeah, how do I envision a new Earth? I envision new Earth. It's hard. It's hard. But the big word is decentralization, right? So that makes it even harder to understand because basically what that means is like it's smaller bands of people, smaller groups of people collaborating and working together voluntarily, right? Like, so that's to me, morally speaking, I think voluntarism is absolutely critical. I think it's very clear and very obvious that if you force somebody to do something against their will, then you're an asshole. And I don't think that's a very hard case to make. So, envisioning a new Earth, it's difficult because we need those pieces together to understand, what that's going to look like. One is, what is the big landscape? What are we dealing with? What is happening? What is being pushed? What is the agenda that's being pushed on us? That, whoever they are or whatever, put down and say, this is how it's going to be. Now, remember, as soon as they do that, it will never be that way. Statistically, almost impossible for it to be whatever some dude in a ivory tower wrote down on a piece of paper and handed to his goons. Okay. It's just not possible. But understanding what that is, that's actually really powerful. You can get into a little bit of Aikido at that point, right? Like, oh, okay, well, you're coming at me this way, so I will just move with you and twist, right? So I think a new Earth is something that's, it sounds almost chaotic when I say decentralization, right? And that's why I'm saying it's hard to envision it because we live in such an ordered, structured world, right? But I think the main things are people are aware and responsible, right? Like each individual, I think, really needs to start to understand their own power and their own ability. The more each person does, the more I think we do get to that sort of new Earth scenario. And I think the more that we each start to wake up to that, what our purpose is, what we're here to do, the more that we start to take those steps. And it's incremental, right? In the direction of which our purpose is. Here's the beauty of it. So you've seen like movies of like Star Wars. Use the force. The force is strong in this one. Well, I believe that is not just an allegory or a metaphor, but we each have, an intuition, an intuitive voice, the rustle of the morning stars, God speaks to us. However you want to quantify that, we have something that's guiding us inside of ourselves, each and every one of us. So when I say decentralized, what I mean is like people doing what they are kind of like, I don't want to say created or programmed to do, but in a sense, like the things that they hear in their soul, the whisperings of their own, connection to source infinity, right? Because those higher levels of the map of consciousness, I would totally show the map of consciousness, but I keep getting in trouble for that on YouTube. But those higher levels, that power versus force, power empowered from within, force from without, forcing people to do stuff. So, the old earth, in my opinion, is like force and decree and absolute totalitarianism and top down centralization, and everything's tracked and tagged and accounted for, and in this like really structural, what do they call that, panopticon type of thing, right? Like that's what force is trying to do. Meanwhile, power's like, the human spirit's indomitable. The ether of the soul needs to be uplifted, not twisted down. Which, when you see those pentagrams, by the way, right, like a 5-pointed star with the point up is lifting up the human spirit or ether or the fifth element. And then when they twist it down and point it down, the Satan thing it's dominating the human spirit by the other elements, right? So force is really, that's really the thing. And you can check anybody's intention based on how much they're trying to manipulate or force, right? They're trying to manipulate and force, then their intention's probably not right on. But if the people who are connected to themselves and hear their own inner voice clearly, just do what that inner voice tells them to do, then there's no way to dominate it, right? Like, that's impossible. And that's why this is like the sort of thing that goes on forever. It's this conflict. It's this yin and yang kind of thing, right? Like, and so this thing goes on and on and on and on. And it's like the conflict never ends. Like, this morning I woke up and I guess somebody gets into the Telegram group and then just invites all these like, porn stars or whatever into the Telegram group. And I'm like, oh, good morning, Eris. How are you today? A golden apple, you say. And so it is what it is, right? Like, all these crazy things are going to happen. Life is chaotic and it's nuts and unpredictable. Even to the rulers, it's unpredictable, right? So the rulers think that, or we think, right? I think a lot of people have bought the narrative that, like, whoever's at the top actually has control or something, but no one is in control here. So it's really determined to us, to decide and choose what the new earth is, each and every one of us. It's going to look different, I think, to many different people. And the diversity, I think, is cool and something to be celebrated. It's like, I love seeing diversity. When I was in Europe, like, you could see the different styles of architecture and things like that. And it was so distinct and unique. And then you come back to America and everything's just kind of like thrown up, like cheap made house, and they all look kind of the same, but I like the diversity. I would like to go, to the next state over and see a different culture, or even, the next township or city or neighborhood or whatever. But, the big thing is, the more people fight for control, the more they're creating chaos, and they don't understand it necessarily. Maybe they do. I don't know. But the chaos it's a thing, right? And so when I say decentralized, it sounds chaotic, but that's not how I mean it. I don't mean it's chaotic, right? Like, going back to this idea of, a group of 8 people, let's say an octalog. There's something chaotic about 8 people collaborating and unanimously deciding, what they're going to do, how they're going to do certain things as a group. And I'm not saying that's the only way to have a thing going on, but I think Bob's work is phenomenal. He's done a ton of work on this. I think the biggest problems, like I said, are going to be interpersonal conflicts. And those are the types of things that people are really going to need the most help with, that they're not even thinking about, right? They're just like, oh, a new earth, I'm going to learn to play the harp and LARP around. And that is what that is. Like, it's totally like this fantastical idea that the Galactic Federation or whoever is going to come down and save us. And it's this savior complex again and again and again. And it rears its head in basically every religion or thought system, whether it's scientism, Christianity, doesn't matter, right? Like, they all have this component of this idea that someone from somewhere else who's somehow more capable is going to fix this problem, but that's just not the reality of the situation. Um, but anyway, but yeah, that's what I say. It's up to us. So I challenge you to really examine your own beliefs. That's what I'm working on myself, and I don't say that from like a place of any distance or even that much further ahead, right? Like I've been working on this stuff for 10 years, and some of the stuff that I need the most work on is the most fundamental. It's the stuff that I probably knew about a long time ago, and just need to revisit. But it all comes back to mentality and beliefs. It's like I could read about mentality and mentalism 100, 1,000, a bajillion times, because we've got all this stimulus coming in from out here that's telling us nothing matters. And, we're just an accident here in this crazy, world that's spinning around, and that's it. No other answer. When I know inside myself for sure that there is a reason, right? And I have done a lot of work to peel back the layers and see what that reason is, right? I feel like I have a pretty firm grasp on that. I'm still learning all the time. But that being the case, like that is a starting point for me to begin to create, my beliefs and start to work with the people that I admire, respect, and share values with, and create that. Because like the new earth is not like this one homogenous thing, right? Like it's a bunch of different ways of living, experiencing, and all that. But people do need to get on the same page and find their tribe and stuff. Yeah, amend those beliefs, challenge those beliefs, right? And that's really, really important. It's really important. And be honest. Don't just lie and say something positive. I heard a guy talking about the difference between positive thinking, putting everything through this lens of, oh, well, it's great, versus power thinking. It's like, okay, how can I fix this problem? Because there are legitimate problems in physical reality that need attention. And there's nothing wrong with the practicality of existing in this realm. In fact, it's awesome. And if it wasn't for the duality that is happening, we wouldn't be able to have this experience. It's pretty dope. It's pretty freaking dope. You got all these weird chemicals in there squirting around, and they do different. And they do. But yeah, folks, I really usually do like 5 minutes on Fridays in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, gosh, yeah, there's definitely a link underneath this video to the website. And on the website, you can get the Facebook group. You can find the podcast audio feeds on all the podcast audios. You can get the Blueprint to Happiness PDF. And that comes with the mentalism course. And then you can join the Facebook group, the Telegram group, which I just deleted a bunch of porn stars off. Sorry. Okay. But you guys can find that stuff all over the place. You don't need my help with that. But yeah, good chat. Thank you so much. Great to hear from you, Carla, Diana, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. Din, thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I hope you have a great Friday. I hope you have an awesome weekend and be out there on the river, just ripping it up and having some fun. I love Karen. I actually just texted her yesterday, Karen Rontowski. I'm going to get her on the show, Stat Dana, and actually trying to coordinate a live stream with her and Lindsay Sharman. But anyways, she's amazing. I love Karen. She's crushing it too. Check out her new Dry Bar comedy special. It's awesome. She's hilarious. I'm a big fan of hers. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Much, much love, many blessings, and love is all there is. Peace.